Hi guys. Yeah, so one of the reasons we're doing these videos is just to simplify what we're doing with the Gajumaru and our blockchain system. So one of the questions I was going to ask to Craig is why Gajumaru? What's the name about?
Oh, right, yeah. So the name's a little bit of a mouthful, Gajumaru. When I was first writing out, we knew we had to partition the system uh, to get chain activity more local. So activity over here wasn't affecting activity over there. Uh, Typical distributed systems kind of designed, but doing that in the context of a blockchain is very challenging. So the idea of a central mint that's proof of work, trustless, so that you could have your Coinbase protected without weird perverse incentives emerging, which happens elsewhere. But then have other side chains that could use the common currency that's commonly trusted. And I couldn't decide when I was trying to describe a system like this, I couldn't think what to call it. And, fortunately for me, I live in Japan, southern Japan, and we have a tree, and there's one outside my office, a tree called the Gajumaru, which means like the walking tree. And it starts with a single bowl, and then it kind of drops off these runners that they look like trees on their own, and you can't tell which one was the original one at some point. And I was like, oh, Gajumaru, that's a cool name. So it was a working name. I thought we would change it later. Nothing better came up, so it stuck. So that's what we got. Uh, as far as how that plays out in terms of the technical side, like how does the mint, the original one, talk with these side chains, these associate chains? Dimitar's been working on actually implementing that. So you could maybe elaborate.
Yep. So those chains, those side chains, we call them associate chains, and they're specific for different use cases. So you want to have a business case that relies on a blockchain, you spawn your own associate chain, and this associate chain will obey the rules that you embedded in it. For example, it can be proof of work or proof of stake, proof of authority. It can be permissioned if you want to. It's going to be serving your particular needs. You can adjust its consensus to meet your actual needs. This allows you to have your own transaction pool reserved just for you, so you don't have to rely on other businesses not overflowing the transaction pool, the blockchain that happen to different blockchains. And how this ties to the whole ecosystem, I'll ask Ulf to help me with that.
Well, actually, Dimitar, you were making good points around this in the past, that one of the things that you can do with the associate chains and the specific way you can design them is you can avoid a lot of the issues that we've seen around people essentially bribing nodes or miners to get output. So, I mean, talk to that a bit further.
Well, this has happened numerous times of different blockchains. When there is an application that gains a lot of momentum, a lot of people start using it. And since the transaction pool, if it is shared, is quite limited, always, then the whole mempool is flooded with transactions. And then miners have to pick which transactions to get included in a block. And what they do is each transaction comes with a fee, and they pick the ones that provide the most fees. The fees goes to the miner that includes the transaction to the blockchain. So people start increasing the fees to bribe them. The computational work that is being done for this transaction is not more than it used to be last week. But since there are more transactions, you are paying for your memory space in the block. And if you have your own transaction throughput that's reserved for your particular use case, that takes congestion caused by other projects.
Yeah, so it's really recognizing that different use cases have different requirements around all of these points, but also allowing us to say, there needs to be an understanding of the common resource, which is the mint, and really trying to make that as effective as it can be as a common resource, whilst enabling specific utilization to be in the associate chains. And actually, that's not where to the point that you were making just a second ago, that's not where it ends. There are major interplays between the associate chains and the mint that are really important to the security and operation of both. So that is Ulf's baby.
Yeah, and so the the ecosystem part of the Gajumaru, the sort of the nutrition that flows through the entire system, is the Gaju, the common currency that is minted on the main chain through proof of work mining. And one of the rules we impose is that your account identity and signatures will be valid on every account, so that you can, when you spawn an associate chain, you essentially check out Gajus from the mint. You can transfer Gajus to and from the mint, between the mint and your associate chain, and you can also transfer Gajus between chains. This also creates a competitive space, so that if, like Dimitar described, a chain gets overloaded or doesn't serve a use case properly, then you can actually spawn a competing chain where the shared resources can flow, because you're not locked into the unique currency of the specific chain that you decided to start on. And also for this to work, we believe that the mint needs to be a full capacity or high capacity, full featured blockchain that you could actually run your applications on to begin with. It will be an unregulated space, a fully decentralized blockchain. And then as you need to branch into or adapt to a regulated space for your real business, then you can do that on an associate chain. Now, the associate chains will also cooperate to improve the finality, as we call it, on the mint. We will get back to that with slightly more details afterwards. Yeah, this is a deep well that we can't really get into now. The thing about how to enable this whole economic ecosystem is it's been really valuable to have Peter along as a rubber duck and to try to answer his questions. And I will let Peter talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so one of the complications I had when I got into this industry was there's so many layers of complexity on the technical side and the economical side. So, I mean, what we're doing here is trying to really break down these videos into small chunks and help people along, so that even the naming convention just help people understand why we've designed and developed the purpose behind the Gajumaru and the simplification of it, so everyone can participate. So keep coming back to watch our videos. And hopefully you get a better understanding and you want to join in and participate.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think has been very interesting with Peter and Ulf explained it well is, as we've been talking through these things in the group, Peter's been asking questions that he says, "I'm sorry, this may seem an obvious thing, but what about this?" And the answer is usually, the reason why you don't understand is because you're, to paraphrase Greg, you're a good person who's thinking of this logically. And the answer tends to start with, there's so much disinformation in here that ultimately what this industry as a whole has been trying to do is saying, okay, we've got a couple of squares that we've attached to axles on this new mode of transport. And instead of saying, well, squares aren't very good wheels, they've instead tried to turn them into polygons, pun intended, and obscure the fact that actually the original design just didn't work, and hide that behind a lot of complexity and very dense technical explanations that most people really can't get into. And that's exactly what we're trying to challenge with these videos. We're trying to make it so that people can understand some of the design decisions, the motivations. Ultimately, we're trying to create an internet of economics. And what that means is that we have an open common resource layer, that is this Gajumaru. And that's what we're trying to deliver to the market. So as Peter says, stay tuned for more videos, and thank you for your time. Bye-bye.